You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian from OptionPit.com, Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, and Henry the FLOWMASTER Schwartz from CBOE. The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. The views expressed herein are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views of CBOE Global Markets Incorporated or any of its subsidiaries, collectively CBOE. The information provided is for general education and information purposes only. There are important risks associated with transacting in any of the CBOE products or any of the digital assets discussed here. Before engaging in any transactions in those products or digital assets, it is important for market participants to carefully review the disclosures and disclaimers contained at www.cboe.com/US_disclaimers. These products and digital assets are complex and are suitable only for sophisticated market participants. These products involve the risk of loss, which can be substantial and, depending on the type of product, can exceed the amount of money deposited in establishing the position. Market participants should put at risk only funds they can afford to lose without affecting their lifestyle. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back once again for the Thursday edition of the Option Block, what the cool kids call the old OB. Hope everyone enjoyed their long holiday weekend here, took a break from the screens, hung out, friends, family, had a good time. You're ready. You're raring to go back here for what is normally our second of two bi-weekly episodes. This week, just the first out there. Of course, my name, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the ever exciting, at least we tend to think so, Options Insider Radio Network. Of course, if you like what you hear out here, throw some stars our way, either on this show's feed, the network feed, our mobile app, on the App Store, wherever you get it, on the old tubes, throw a like, wherever you get the content. Does help new people continue to discover the content. And then, of course, if you want more content in your lives, how does, let's say, 200 plus hours of exclusive content waiting for you the second you hit that button? Then you know where to go. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. And let's learn who's joining us on the old program today. First, let's go out to the quiet, the sunny shores of the Fox River, where we are joined once again by the uncleist of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to ye old OB, sir.
Always happy to be here. And Fox River shores, got a little bit of algae in the Fox River right now. We need some rain to wash the stuff away. So that's what's going on out here in lovely, sunny, scenic St. Charles.
Better battling the algae than the clam pirates, sir. So there you go. Something to mull
Very
on
true.
out there on the shores of the fine algae-infested Fox River. You know where there is no algae? It's the shores of Maine, because the waters are always storm-tossed. Lightning's always crashing, waves crashing against the shores. And, of course, when the waters are tranquil, that's when the clam pirates come. So folks call it hell on earth. Who would want to live there? Well, none other than the Rock Lobster himself, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. Mr. Rock Lobster, what kind of day do we have? Dark and stormy, or is it tranquil and pirate infested, sir?
I know you always hate it when I say this, but it is tranquil and pirate infested today.
There you go. There is no upside.
I think we took all of TOSAW's rain over the last month, sadly.
Pick your poison. You want the stormy shores, or do you want the pirates? There's no winning on the shores of Maine. It's the old AVP tagline. Whoever wins, we lose out there on the shores of Maine. And then also joining us from, I'm pleased to report, the no longer apocalyptic, smoke-choked streets of New York. We are joined once again by the FLOWMASTER himself, Mr. Henry Schwartz from CBOE. Mr. FLOWMASTER, how does it feel to be back and without your Bane respirator, sir?
It feels great. Everything in New York is kind of nice and mellow. I just Googled clam pirate because I wanted to know if that was a thing.
I don't know if you want to Google that. It could take you to some weird places.
Well, I didn't do it on a work computer, but apparently there is some sort of a fantasy character in a Disney Pirates of the Caribbean play set called the Clam Pirate. So it's already a thing.
There you go.
But I'm happy to be here. Everything is good in New York City.
Maybe the Rock Lobster needs some of those figures to adorn his desk out there so he can look at them while the real clam pirates are ravaging his shore. Let's see if the markets are ravaging, or if they're perhaps having a nice Uncle Mike TOSAW time today. It's time to find out. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, let's do it. Let's get out there, see what the heck is trading out there. And it's kind of a mixed bag out there. The S&P was struggling to a little bit green to kind of unch to kind of just tick red as we were talking, listeners, off a little bit over 0.05% right now. So not a heck of a lot going on out there. The Dow off a little more, off about 0.25% as we kicked off the show. And the NASDAQ feeling a little bit of a little bit of juice, a little bit of get up and go today, up about 0.33%. So again, kind of a bit of a mixed bag out there, listeners. And why not? Since we're having fun, let's throw small caps into the mix. Off nearly a full percent, about 0.85 to the dark side right now, 0.85%. So small caps not feeling their oats. If you want a deeper dive into small caps, stay tuned for TTWO, listeners. I will be joined by the folks from FTSE Russell. It is recon time, after all, to break down all the action out there. There's always some surprise nuggets to be found in recon because it really encapsulates the shifts that happened in the equity market over the past 12 months. What's gotten bigger, what's gotten smaller, what interesting takeaways, what interesting surprises are to be found in that data. We will break it all down later on TTWO. But right now, like we said, not a heck of a lot lighting it up out there. That means most of our friends on the vol front down a wee bit. VIX, when we kicked off the show, 1340, down almost a full point, about 0.85 from where we were exactly a week ago. Remember, no show on Monday, listeners. VVIX 94, actually up a little bit, up about 4 points. What's that coming from? Are the puts getting juicier out there? All sorts of moving parts to the VVIX calculation, but up 4 points this week. VXX 26.75, down also nearly a full point, about 0.85 as well. So moving in lockstep with VIX over the past week. UVXY 210, down 0.07 from our show on Monday. But you know what? That doesn't matter because coming up tomorrow, listeners, we'll be talking about a whopping 21 handle. You know, would I have preferred a 42? Yes, I would have. Or even any other iteration above 10 for 1. But c'est la vie, we got 10 for 1. So we'll be getting that 10 for 1 reverse split tomorrow. Look out below, all you put lovers out there in UVXY, because it's coming back. Put season coming back out there in UVXY. So we'll have more to talk about even on vol views, hopefully tomorrow. So that should be interesting because this threatening the 2 handle is for the birds, listeners. SVIX 2610 up about 0.7. Once again, I sound like a broken record these days, but once and future Dr. Vicks, just celebrating, having parties every day. We are at a new 52-week high right now, just ticked 26.34. So it's ticked up even more since we started the show. And that is indeed a new all-time high. So SVIX, I mean, no surprise, VIX continues to vanish. So SVIX continuing to hit new all-time highs just about every day. We got excited when it hit a 17 not too long ago, nearly 9 handles above it. I think we had some listeners write in saying, man, I regret overriding that 17 strike. Now, I understand it. At the end of the day, you made money, so you can't be too mad. But still, I get it. Left some upside on the table out there in SVIX. UVIX, 5 1/4, down about 1/4 of a point. And VolQ, a.k.a. the at-the-money vol of the NASDAQ at 1820, up about 0.2 of a point from last show. All right, the table is set. Let's go around the horn, the opposite of the way we came. Let's start in the formerly apocalyptic, now carefree streets of New York. Mr. FLOWMASTER, sir, what is catching your eye in the markets today?
It's kind of a funny, day where we're actually trading in a pretty tight range after they raised rates over in Europe. And Powell, I think, was on TV about an hour ago. I don't think traders actually kind of know what to do in the U.S. We've had a really strong run up, obviously. And I think people feel like maybe we're a little bit tired, but I don't know. I saw a headline go by the other day that said you could get a 5% yield pretty much in zero risk government bonds, high yield junk bonds, and also in equities based on the S&P 500 earnings ratio, which I guess the subtext of that means you'd be kind of crazy to buy equities for a 5% yield if that's what you can get in a zero risk product. But I kind of feel like people are, summer just started yesterday. We had the solstice. I went out dancing in a field of flowers, and I think people are just kind of ready for a mellow summer.
I can somehow picture you dancing in a field of flowers, a ring of flowers around your head, just having a good old time. And that's what the FLOWMASTER's doing, listeners, when he's not talking to us here on the show, just to let you paint a little mental picture of the host, as I know you guys and gals like to do out there. He's never dancing in the field of flowers because he's too busy battling for his very existence on the dark and stormy shores of Maine. He is the Rock Lobster. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what's catching your eye out there? And what are your thoughts on, hey, you can get 5% in a risk-free asset or in equity, sir? That's an interesting take. Like, hey, 5%'s not bad. And I think that's going to draw a lot of people to it, which I think Powell needs at this point because the U.S. is still issuing an enormous amount of debt. Please tell me what the current problems are that the government has to run, massive unfunded spending as far as the eye can see. I'm still trying to figure out if these guys actually know what their job is. Guys and girls, by the way, equal opportunity disliking politicians of all stripes at this point. So Powell is going to force banks to increase capital ratios so they can buy more bonds. At least they're buying at 5%, not 0%, like they had to do in 2008. So I'm starting to become one of the tinfoil hat guys even more so. Like, what do we need the Fed for at this point? Do you think you're just starting to put on the tinfoil hat? You haven't been wearing
exactly.
it for many years.
I know. I knew that was a freebie for you.
Your tinfoil hat is just growing. That's what's happening.
The tinfoil hat is getting taller by the day. So, obviously government spending, the whole thing disappointing. And there's really no reason for it. I think we need term limits. So, I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I would vote for it if they were there. But that being said, I think the market's got a pretty good boost to 4,400 on the potential of AI. And NVIDIA juicing their earnings, saying, hey, our earnings could be up 40% or our revenues could, quarter to quarter, whatever. Like these are, and the stock price reflects it. It has held up remarkably well, even though it's been going straight up. I think it's up like $50 in the last 2 weeks alone, even after earnings, if I recall. So I think the AI thing is, I feel like this is how
you're going to look at all the bull markets of the last 50 years, 75 years. They've all been bull markets started by technology, new technology coming in every time. It was computers in the 50s. It was semiconductors in the 60s, 70s, like small frame computers. You got 80s software revolution, PC, 90s internet, social media in the 2000s, 2010s. And all the while, the chips have been increasing in power. Anyway, and now we're in the AI thing where maybe, we write software faster, make things easier to do. Who knows, right? Talk to your computer and you get answers. Who knows how, what companies will win? But normally what happens is, like, a lot of companies benefit from the technology as it rolls out over the years. And that's how those long bull markets happen. So I think, if it's real, and I've seen some stuff from some really smart guys saying, hey, this is kind of kooky and crazy, and there's sky's the limit from like big thinkers, much bigger than me. So maybe there's something to this. And I asked Henry, he's been around for a long time, TOSAW as well, and you, like, bull markets kind of start, nobody really expects it. You get that first rally, that first 20%, and everybody's like, oh, we're in a bull market. And then people are like, I missed the rally, right? I didn't buy the Q at 260. I didn't buy it at 280. I didn't buy it at 300. It's now 350. I ain't going to buy it. And then the market kind of chugs along and these slow returns going up. And then all of a sudden, you have another 10, 15% a year later. And everybody's like, oh, I really missed it. And then all of a sudden they start piling in late game as usual. Every decade it happens. So I'm like, while we could go sideways this summer pretty easily, at least that's what it looks like. VIX is reflecting. You got the steep contango, the whole thing. Short-term vols are back, I believe, in the single digits in SPX. Let's see here. I'll get the print today. Yeah, I'm seeing weekend adjusted volatilities at 9.67, July 03. Prior to the holiday is a 990 on that Monday, I believe. Again, all weekend adjusted, but still, it's below 10. And, below 10 vol, you guys know what that is. It's pretty low. So I think we could see like a 12 handle this week. And you're right. We have, and I think the market is taking a little bit of a breather to step back. But I think, it's not going to surprise me to see the end of the year higher as long as Uncle Sam doesn't screw it up. So we'll see what happens.
We shall see indeed as we turn our attention now away from the land of ever increasing tinfoil hats and over to the land of happiness and pleasantness and just a little bit of algae on the shores of the Fox River. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is catching your eye out there in what was kind of an Uncle Mike type of day? It seems like maybe it's trending in the wrong direction for you, though, sir.
Oh, sorry. I was just dancing in a field of flowers. I had to stop for a second.
Well, Henry's doing it. You got to catch up, right?
Got it. I mean, we have fields of flowers out here in St. Charles to dance in. Why not? I think with today, we peaked out at, or at least recently, at I believe it was 44.48 in the S&P last week. And the markets have pulled back from that. And so for right now, I think taking a breather is a good way to describe it at this point, because we have been on a tear lately with upside in this market. I think right now, because of just how fast we've come up, sideways does not seem like it's out of the question at this point, but you never know. This is the greatest country in the history of the planet, and the S&P 500 represents 80% of all U.S. business and commerce. So it's not really wise to count the market out, if you will. So with that being said, the thing that's interesting right now is that we haven't had in a while has been lower volatility or lower implied or lower VIX essentially. And so we're in a different world now than we were a year ago because of that. Because even when we would rally, and I know last year was not an Uncle Mike type of year, if you will, with the S&P going down like it did. But since COVID, we've had very high VIX, and now we're getting a little bit lower, not quite to the single digit Trump era VIX, but we are getting lower to the point now to where things need to be adjusted. And you need to be aware of that when selecting your trades. Now, a couple other things that are going on. We still have been relatively flat in the bonds, even with the Fed in recent history saying that they're going to pause. That did not trigger a rally in bonds by any means. So we do have that. And we do still have some yield going in the markets because of that. So it's definitely a different world now than it has been in the last 5 years or 10 years, just from a financial planning standpoint as well, in that I can actually pitch bonds again to people and say, okay, we can actually get some type of yield out of this for the conservative section of your portfolio. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not all I do by any means, but it actually is part of what I'm showing people again, and it's kind of weird, quite frankly. So that's what I'm seeing.
Kind of weird indeed. Bonds, sexy again. Are you down with a little bit of fixed income, listeners? Hit up Uncle Mike over there on Twitter at Mike TOSAW. Let him know you want to talk about some bonds. You want to get on the note, I should say, get on the boat with the 10-year note. Let's see what's going on in the rest of the market. You may be wondering, how do I crunch all these numbers so quickly, listeners? Only one place to go to find out for yourselves, tradealert.com. You too can get a handle on the market just as quickly as I do it here right now. Let's pull up VIX, for example. VIX still looking pretty robust. The ADV coming in a little bit. It was right around 850 on the show last week, 844 right now. So down a whopping 6,000 contracts. Not a heck of a lot. Seems like we're going to blow past that today. Already 623,000 contracts on the tape out there in VIX land. So a lot of paper to parse. Stay tuned for Volatility Views tomorrow, listeners, where we do just that. We break down all the action going up out there in VIX and just about every other volatility product under the sun. So if you haven't listened to Vol Views, for whatever reason, it's been running over a decade. If you've managed to miss it all this time, check it out. If you're listening to the network feed, it'll be coming up tomorrow for you out there. SPY, 4.9 million contracts on the tape. The ADV, 8.61 million out there right now. So SPY looking robust again. The day that ends in Y, you're going to see some paper in SPY, and that is the case again today. The S, 1.5 million. Again, just a year ago, we would have been losing our minds at this number. Oh my God. Over 1 million contracts at this point of the show. This is insane in the S. Now we've come to expect that, even 1.5 million. Looking pretty robust, but again, not surprising given the ADV is closing in on 3 million contracts right now, right around 2.9 million contracts. So again, we were just talking about this on the advisor's option yesterday. If you're subscribed to the network, you'll get the full show there. Should be waiting for you right now, actually, with our buddy, Mr. Matt from Orats, who has a bone to pick with the rock lobster. He said he's been dodging him out there. So intriguing stuff out there, but check it out. We talk a little bit about the impact of these 0-day SPX and other contracts on all this tsunami of options volume we have going on right now, listeners. Small caps, again, if you want more small caps info, stay tuned for TWIFO coming up a little bit later today or after this on the on-demand side, listeners, from my chat with Miss Catherine Yoshimoto from FTSE Russell about all things small caps. IWM, 563,000 contracts, the ADV, 1.1 million. It was less than a month ago that small caps were down on the year. And just in the last few weeks, we've seen this really aggressive resurgence out there for all things small caps. Intriguing stuff. And of course, not to be outdone, we have the Qs, 2.15 million contracts on the tape right now. The ADV, 3.3 million for the Qs. Let's get on out to the most actives. Same deal. Mr. FLOWMASTER, he's so nice. He's so kind to us here on the show. He created a nice little button for us called Most Active. We hit that button, and it breaks down all the top 10 most actives for us, so we can crunch it for you really quickly here on the old show. Let's start at number 10. It's kind of a quiet day, all things considered, listeners, for the single names. Only 216,000 contracts get you into the top 10 today. It's not nothing. It's not $1.50. It's also not 330, 360 like we were talking about not too long ago on the show either. That gets us to a company I know the Rock Lobster has been kind of scratching his head about for a while. It's Intel. What are they up to these days? You know, how can they regain maybe some of their lost market share and mind share? Doesn't seem like it's going to happen today, listeners. Off a half a buck, trading $32.40 right now. But again, good for the number 10 spot, 216,000 contracts. When's the last time we had Intel on our top 10, listeners? It's been quite a while. Let's look really quickly. Let's dive in and see what the big trades are out here. It's like 5,600 of the June 33 calls going up today are the big trade. Interesting. For 13 cents, Doesn't seem like those are going to hit right now. They could be closing, though. There is OI on that strike. Also about almost 5,000 of the July 28 puts. Those could be closing as well. They're going up for 14 cents. So intriguing stuff. So 2 decent-sized prints out here. Decent amount of action out here in INCL. Again, it's been a while since I've traded. I used to make markets out here way back in the day, in the dot-com bubble days. So intriguing stuff out there. They updated some of their chip manufacturing plans, it looks like, and the market not liking what it's hearing. Number 9, kind of a perennial top 10er these days. You want to hear more about Microsoft? Stay tuned for TWIFO. How often do I say that? Talking about Microsoft on This Week in Futures Options. We do that today, so stay tuned for that, listeners. Number 9, Microsoft, 224,000 contracts on the tape, up $3.60, or a little over 1% today, trading 337.15. So yet another day that is green for a good old softy. Number 8, back in the dot-com days, back in the pre-BITO days, this was a lot of you out there. This was one of your proxies for crypto. You had Coinbase, of course, and you had this one, Mara. Riot was another one, of course. Those 3 were really, for a lot of you, the hot crypto-related names. Mara back on our list today at number 8. Haven't seen them in a while. 244,000 contracts for them. It looks like having a bit of a rough day for them as well, off about 40 cents, trading $11.82. I'm curious for you folks out there, listeners. Are you still slinging yourself some Mara, or have you moved on to BITO? Does BITO really kind of eliminate a lot of, because that's talking about correlation. You get that in BITO and spades. You have other things cooking out here in Mara. Might be a good question of the week. Are you still slinging Mara and Riot and those other names, Coin, or are you all in on BITO when it comes to slinging some options on crypto-related names in your securities account? Again, number 8, Mara, 244,000. Number 7, a name we've talked about quite a bit, not so much in the last week or two, as it seems like, week and a half maybe, as it seems like it's given back some of those lofty gains. It's still pretty much doubled from where it was when I was looking at selling those puts, listeners. It was down. I was looking at the 7.5 strike. We are now still north of 14, but of course also off the recent highs of $17.16. In fact, we were almost exactly $3 below that right now, $14.11. Of course, we're talking about Palantir, a name that really caught the wave of all things AI. They got some new contracts out there as well. That helped just lift the boat. Talk about just hitting at exactly the right time. The AI wave, getting those contracts. Palantir pretty much doubling and then some. And now giving back the then some, just doubling since their earnings. Still good for 310,000 contracts out there today. I got a feeling we'll be talking about Palantir again later this week, maybe on options oddities for a little bit of unusual activity. Listen, let's go out to number 6. Again, kind of like we're looking at some repeats here of 2001. We've got Mara, number 8, 7, Palantir, and number 6, AMC, the king of the apes. 370,000 contracts on the tape. $4.08 off 45 cents, or nearly 10% today. So a rough day for the king of the apes. No love here for apparently AMC today. 370,000 contracts on the tape, though. Number 5, bit of a surprise out here today, listeners. It's Ye Old Fruit Company coming in 520,000 contracts. Man, Apple getting kicked to the curb a little bit these days, even though Apple is up 185.75, up about $1.75, or nearly a full percent today. Not that far from its 52-week high, and indeed all-time high. About 187 was the high here, 185.75 right now. So within spitting distance of it, but only number 5 today, 520,000 contracts. Number 4, the symbol twin for the reigning king of the apes. It's AMD, off about $1.60, trading 110.5 right now. Good for 543,000 contracts, and the number 4 spot. Right behind it, it's our other friend in the chip zone, listeners. This name that literally everyone's talking about these days. It's NVIDIA, actually managing to sell off a whole quarter of a point today. 430 and about a quarter is where it's trading right now. So yeah, NVIDIA, you don't need me to tell you the saga that has been NVIDIA over the last month. 633,000 contracts on the tape. Actually kind of a light day for NVIDIA today. And then number 2, off to the races here. We've got the Amazonians, listeners, 1.1 million. When's the last time we saw Amazon north of 1 million? It's been a while, listeners. 129.20 is where it's trading right now, up $4.35. Not normally the kind of reaction you see in the market when the FTC announces that it's suing a company like they did with Amazon over the weekend, saying they tricked and trapped customers into getting Prime. Not usually a bullish sign for the stock, but hey, up 3.5%. So the market knows something that apparently the rest of us do not. And again, good for a 1.1 million contract. So Amazon looking like they're having an earnings announcement today, and a good one. So intriguing stuff. And you know what's number one? It's Tesla out there, which, by the way, if you want to hear some interesting nuggets about Tesla as well, how often do I say that? You want to hear an interesting nugget about Tesla? Stay tuned for TWIFO a little bit later. Some surprising details. Maybe a certain name you wouldn't expect may have knocked it out of the top rankings out there in the old Russell 1000. I can say no more. You got to tune into the show to find out, listeners. Tesla today, 262 even, up $2.50, almost 260, nearly a full percent. Good for 1.96 million. So Tesla on fire yet again. Downgraded yet again. Doesn't matter. Stock up over 1% anyway. So yeah, a crazy day out there, listeners. But again, aren't they all? Let's look really quickly. If you want some more earnings, you're kind of in for not a heck of a lot of action out there. There are still some names this week. We had FedEx after the bell on Tuesday. We had KB Home on Wednesday. And then today, before the bell, we had Meatball's favorite. Quite literally, it's Darden Restaurants. And then tomorrow we have CarMax, but not a heck of a lot of paper to look at out there. The last earnings season report we have, actually just broke it down with our buddy, Mr. Matt from ORAD. So check out the advisors option if you want to hear the latest numbers and his analysis of them. A spoiler alert, the season pretty much ended up exactly as predicted. The long-term average is 96%, and we went out pretty much exactly 96%. So a lot of people, including Matt, were predicting kind of an apocalyptic cycle. Didn't quite come to pass. So intriguing stuff, a lot of surprises to be found out there. And you know what else has some surprises in store for us listeners? It's the Odd Block. So let's get to it.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, listeners. It's that time, listeners. It's time for the Odd Block. Time to unleash the beast known as the Eye of Sauron. You know, that's fun in and of itself. If you guys head on over to tradealert.com and you dig in and you ask for it, you too can get the majesty of the Eye of Sauron. But on Thursday episodes of the show, things get even better because we also get to unleash the eye of the FLOWMASTER. He's always digging behind the scenes over there in the flow to see what nuggets he can uncover. And it sounds like his first one today he's always got newcomers to the show, which is always fun. This is EURONAV NV. This is a Belgian international shipping enterprise, which transports oil by sea. So there you go, listeners. Ticker symbol EURN, trading $16.10. Decent year for them, up 35% or up 4.25% on the year. A year ago, they were trading $11.89. They got down to their low for the year about a week and change later. They got down to $10.50. Since then, it's been a lot of upside. They rallied from July 6th. That was their low. And then on September 19th, they hit $19 even. And they gave it up again October 5th, back to $14.50. Then back up again to their high for the year on November 21st of $21 even. And then they came for it again. It's a very volatile oil tanker company here. They got down to $13.30 in January 11th. So they kicked off the year, not quite at their lows, but not at their lofty highs either. Then they rallied again. They got up to, looks like on March 3rd, $19 even. They like even numbers in this stock. And then they've kind of been vacillating and drifting lower ever since, hanging out right now, $16.10. Still up 35% on the year, so still a good year, but about $5 below their apex of $21, which came back in November of last year. All right, Mr. FLOWMASTER, the table is set. What has the eye of the FLOWMASTER spotted for us out there in our new favorite, EURONAV?
Yeah, this one showed up just on a super high call to put ratio and also super high unusual volume. And then when I looked at the prints, it was clear to me that it was kind of a net opening customer buyer. So the stock 16-ish, like you said. The average daily total volume in this name is 556 contracts. And there was a buyer who swept a few thousand of the August 18 calls in a bunch of prints. And also bought 4,600 in a single block on the box. So total of about 8,000 contracts I think they paid 60 cents on everything. So it's about almost $500,000 in premium. It does have earnings in early August. And, as you said, the stock kind of trades in a range. So, I went and looked back, and there was a similar kind of big spike in call volume in February in the May 17 calls when the stock was a little bit lower. Those looked good for a couple of days, and then they fizzled out. So the stock did not really hold up. But I kind of have a thing for foreign companies when we see the unusual option volume, especially if it's heavy call buying. I guess I feel like sometimes there's some opportunities there. So, this was a funky one. Doesn't trade much, but traded a decent amount today.
That it certainly did. Mr. Rock Lobster, anything to add here on your new favorite symbol? Or maybe this is one you've been trading for years. Watch, you're going to tell me you used to make markets in this back in 1984. Is this your favorite, EURN?
EURN. You know what? Somehow this one has slipped by. But I agree with Henry. These, like, the out of category volume is always. I will not be a spoiler on the next one, but the next one I did see that one, but I have not seen this. I don't think it's a terrible. I'm trying to pull this up right now. I don't think it's too crazy, but it's like all this oddball pay. I mean, like, is a tanker company going to make the move? But it is 2 months, so I don't know. I don't think it looks too terrible, but it's one of those where the out of the money calls and these kind of sleepy stocks are a little. It is a little funky. I will say that. I agree with Henry though. You always got to at least take a look at it. Like, why are they buying calls in a stock that never moves? You got to ask yourself that question.
This thing had a few fits and starts over the past year, so it seems like it can have moments of sporadic action. That's clearly what they're looking for out here. So we'll keep an eye on EURN. Are you yearning for some EURN, listeners? Hit us up. Let us know if you're keeping an eye on these. You think it can make it? The 18 calls by August, listeners. Keep an eye on those as we keep on rolling to our next name. This is one we talked about before, but it's been quite some time. This is Mitsubishi Financial Group, ticker symbol MUFG. Good old MUFG, MUFG, listeners. Trading $7.20, up about 20 cents today on the year. Decent year for them, actually, up about 30%. A year ago, it was trading $5.50, and they kind of gently drifted down in the second half of the year towards their nadir for the year of $4.31. They actually hit that in October 12th, so before the end of the year. Then they started climbing again. By beginning of this year, by January 13th, they hit their high for the year of $7.71. So they went from about $4.31 to $7.71 in the span of just a couple of months. So a nice run here for Mitsubishi Financial Group. And then that was kind of it. They kind of trended lower. They got down to about $6 in March, hung out at that level for a while, bouncing around this 6 level. They've been trying to rally it a little bit since over the past month, and they have rallied from about the mid 6s up to where it is right now, about $7.20. So just intriguing. Still can't quite recapture the highs of $7.71 that it started the year at, but intriguing stuff nonetheless. Let's see what our eye of the FLOWMASTER found out there. Mr. FLOWMASTER, sir, what was catching your eye and everyone's second favorite name today, MUFG?
Yeah, so this one was a little bit similar, very heavy volume, like 500 times normal, I think. And it's all in one option, right? It's those August 7.5 calls, 10,000 bought for a quarter. Now, there is open interest there. There's almost 20,000 open interest there, which is pretty much the only open interest in the whole product. So I went back to the days that it was opened, because you can see that in Trade Alert. And we see the opening trade in February and March, about 10,000 apiece, very similar. So that's why I can see that this one's an opening buyer, even though there's 20,000 contracts already there. The half of it printed on EDGX, which is one of the CBOE exchanges. So we actually have that customer breakout data there that confirms it's a customer buyer, and it is marked opening. I guess there's a chance that it's closing. Sometimes the open versus closed tickets are not accurate, but in this case, it looks to me like they're putting on another chunk. They seem to like this 25-cent level, and again, there's something about these foreign stocks that's alluring in terms of possibly some suspicious option trading. So This one actually, I did buy a little bit of stock. It's only $7 stock. So rather than options, I just took a little bit of stock, just in case something actually happened. I kind of like this one.
Uh-oh, the FLOWMASTER starting to nibble. How often would you say, sir, when you see an alert that you nibble a little bit in the old FLOWMASTER account, sir?
I trade 3 or 4 times a week. So, I try to pick my spot, and it all has to make sense in kind of the context of my overall strategy. So, I'm always telling people there's definitely some opportunities out there that option flow can be a tip off for, but it really you have to do things the way that makes sense to you. You got to do your homework. You got to be very cautious and keep your sizes small. But I like to play some of these. Sometimes it's good for just a same day trade, and sometimes it's good for a couple weeks.
Indeed, sir. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir. Anything catching your eye out there in the land of everyone's second favorite ticker these days, MUFG?
Yes, I think I was calling it MUFG.
That applied earlier.
But we know how you like a catchy ticker symbol.
I like a good ticker.
We know how you like a catchy ticker symbol. Yeah, kind of crazy volume. There's still 25 bid going out. So I mean, Mitsubishi Financial has a range of like between $4 and $7 for the last 20 years. So it is odd somebody's buying this. Same thing. I guess they're buying it for a reason, and they're taking relatively small dollar shots. Actually, Sebastian liked this one a lot to go. He thinks this was because you got kind of an odd breakout over the last couple days in here. So, and I know Japan, I think, is getting back to levels it hasn't seen in quite a while. So I think this one has a shot, and I do like the August time frame. This lower vol is making the August much, much more appetizing, in my view. So folks can take that for what it's worth.
So we got two nibbles here, two, I should say, positive votes here. The FLOWMASTER nibbling on the stock, and the Rock Lobster liking himself the August options. You like these, listeners? You down for a little bit of upside in MUFG? Hit us up. Let us know. I'm intrigued as we get to our final eye of the FLOWMASTER name for this week, listeners. Going back to another name we haven't talked about in a while. Going out to the gaming side, this is Take-Two Interactive, ticker symbol TTWO. If you know the gaming world, this is summertime, usually the old big E3 Expo time. A lot of announcements. E3 no longer with us, listeners, but a lot of big names, a lot of big titles, big companies making big announcements in the gaming world this time of year. It's not surprising we might see Take-Two on the list. Up about $0.50 today, or up about 1/3%, trading 141 right now. On the year, let's see, it's been a decent year, but not exactly a banger. They have recovered from their lows, though. A year ago, it was trading 128, and then they got up in August of last year to 136.5, so not that far from where they are right now. And then they gave it all up. By November of last year, they got down to their low for the year, exactly $90 even. That was their low on November 8th. And then since then, it's been pretty much fighting their way back impressively, including a nice pop in May from 125 up to 139.63 in a span of about a session or two. So, yeah, one session overnight. So I'm guessing a wee bit of good earnings from them. That's a nice little pop for them. So they're hanging out right now a little bit north of 140, almost 141 right now, listeners. So a nice little run here since November for Take-Two. Mr. FLOWMASTER, sir. What did the eye of the FLOWMASTER find in Take-Two today?
So this one just happened to be a couple directional trades that hit my screen this morning. But then when I looked at the stock, and I just looked back for like the last 2 weeks, this thing's up 10 days in a row from 133 up to today's 141 level. That kind of surprised me, considering the S&P has kind of been a little bit choppy over the last 3 or 4 days. It is near its 52-week high. Might even be an all-time high. I'm not sure. But what we saw was a buyer of the June 30th 143 calls from like 111 to 112 or so, and a couple other strikes as well. But that 143 call is what I saw, and then there was also a decent chunk of puts, but it's a penny seller in the 128, which to me is, I'm pretty sure they're just getting out. They're just got a penny. I actually looked at this one. I already had some stock, which I don't remember why I bought it, but I have some from earlier this year from $124. So I was happy.
It's a bit of a theme with you these days. So wait a minute, I have this stock in my account.
It's not as bad as what was the one we looked at it last
Lordstown Motors is coming up next. Yes.
Yeah, that still made me sad for several days. But this one, I mean, it's an expensive stock, $141. So I'm not going to play in the stock anymore. Maybe sell a put spread. But it's kind of interesting to see, these pockets of strength, even though the market's kind of fizzled out a little bit in the last week or two, we still have a couple little chunks that are really outperforming. So, that was really what I was.
Mr. Rock Lobster, same question, sir. Are you liking a little bit of the old gaming this time in Take Two, sir?
I guess I don't own the stock like Henry does.
Or maybe have you forgotten about it as well? Is it buried in your portfolio somewhere?
128 put seller for a penny, closing 1100. I'm sure. So he's saying this buying 143. I mean, it would not. Again, I think it's sort of one of those things where it seems pretty tight. Pretty tight to the 30th, but $3 is not very much in a $140 stock. So little spec, but not an unreasonable purchase, it looks like.
Not unreasonable at all. You know what might have been considered unreasonable? I guess it depends on your point of view. I hate to do this to the FLOWMASTER, but we have to pay this off really quickly from last week. It's the other name he forgot about in his portfolio. It is Lordstown Motors, a ticker symbol RIDE. Why are we paying it off now? Because we talked about it on the show last week. A trade coming in that expires tomorrow, listeners. So let's get to it right now because it ain't looking too good. Last week, we profiled someone coming in and loading up on 5,287 of the June expiring tomorrow. 4 calls, lifting the offer for 15 cents. It was about a 150 vol, as meaningful as such numbers are with a week to go. The stock was hanging out right at $3.50, listeners, when this trade went up. So it seemed like somebody was swinging for the old fences on a little bit of near-term upside here in Lordstown Motors. As the FLOWMASTER reminded us, this stock has been a wee bit higher, including a nice high up back in September of 2020 of $435.15. So thankfully he didn't buy it there. Trading right now, listeners, a whopping $3.41. You will notice it is below that 4 strike that they bought. So not looking good. These calls are still open. The stock was a little lower this morning, 330. So it has rallied a little bit. So again, they have a day left. There is a chance these could come to fruition, but it ain't looking good, listeners. These calls still open right now as it stands. Paper out about 80 grand on their swing for the upside fences. Mr. FLOWMASTER, does it make you feel a little better here in Lordstown that someone else is perhaps going the way of the dodo with their trade, sir?
Yeah, I mean, this thing got swept up in whatever the last little EV electric vehicle surge we saw. When I see like a trade like this, for a lot of people, it's simply a matter of they don't want to go buy the stock, but they are willing. They have some discretionary, capital. You never know. I mean, when it is about a 10% cost to borrow the thing, so you could see some sort of a squeeze. I mean, one day is not a lot of time. You're right. I think it was probably just basically a lottery ticket that they were comfortable with.
All right, listeners, and we're always comfortable with your questions. Let's get to a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, listeners, we've been off for the beginning of the week, so this is our first chance really to pay off some of our poll questions from last week. We had a couple interesting ones going up last week. First off, we asked you, hey, with VIX continuing to drop while rates continuing to go mostly up, obviously we posted that before the Fed announcement last week, so we weren't 100% sure. We said it's challenging to generate income using options while the rewards for cash are substantial, as the FLOWMASTER pointed out at the top of the show, listeners, which raises the question, are you still selling covered calls in this environment? Gave you 4 potential answers. Yes, I'm just selling them a little bit closer to at the money to try to generate that same level of income. Or yes, I am, but I'm okay with making less income right now. or no, I'm not selling them because there's too much risk. Maybe I'm just in cash, or no, there's just not enough income for me. I want nothing to do with it. And we actually, surprisingly, had an exact tie, 30.4% each for yes, because I'm okay with making less income right now. And also 30.4% for no, I'm not selling them because there's too much risk. I'm just in cash right now. So that's an interesting spread in our audience. And then second place, we have no, not enough income. So I guess if you add the two no's together, that's over half of our audience, 56.5% saying you are not selling covered calls right now. And then bringing up the rear, yes, I am still selling them, just a little bit closer to at the money. So that was intriguing. And then we also had a flash poll during our VolView show last week that was kind of interesting, saying quite simply, are you taking advantage of the lower VIX and modest call skew to trade some stock substitution in the S&P 500? And 60% of you said yes, 40% of you said no. So interesting range of opinions out there. Uncle Mike, sir, I am curious, what are your thoughts? First off, our audience exactly tied on yes, they are still selling covered calls because they're okay with less income. And then also, no, they are not selling covered calls because there's too much risk. Kind of a weird result there. And then also our audience clearly down with a little bit of stock substitution right now. What do you think, sir?
Well, I mean, with covered calls, there's not to sound too much like another person who has a show on CNBC, but there's always a covered call out there somewhere. And it's my job to find it for you. But there's always individual stocks that are good covered call sales in terms of finding a good risk reward on it. And so with our triple income portfolio, we'll sell covered calls no matter. We look to find that in our triple income portfolio, and we sold covered calls even in the 9 VIX Trump era. And there's times that you do get burned on that if the stock moves more than you're expecting it to the upside. And of course, you miss out, and they're like, well, why did I sell this thing? I didn't really get enough income on it. But the way with which we weather that storm is that we always want to have a couple in there to where we're selling call spreads. So that way, whether it's just like a few stocks that we feel that, this would be a good call spread candidate, because if this one does go through the roof, then we're still getting a little bit of income. But you know what? If we think that we're selling a 5-point vertical call spread against it, yeah, we miss out on 4 points of upside, but we have the potential of all this unlimited upside. So that's how we weather that storm. And that's what we do.
Mr. Flowmaster, same question for you. Any thoughts on the results of our questions of the week here? And also, we have a question here from NNBT that is right up your alley, inspired by our questions of the week. NNBT says, your poll got me thinking. Is there a way to configure Trade Alert to scan for covered calls or short puts that generate a certain percentage of income? Thanks. So a twofer for you, Mr. Flowmaster. First off, your thoughts on our poll results, and then B, any answers you have for NNBT on our his poll-inspired question.
Sure. So I do agree that the VIX being around 12-ish makes it a little bit more challenging, especially the people that were just kind of systematically or repeatedly just selling premium. I think at these levels you kind of have to pick your side rather than selling both calls and call spreads and put spreads or whatever. You kind of have to pick the side you're more comfortable with. If you're already kind of long because of your core, you maybe look to sell some upside. I did that though last week and got a little bit burned on one of the updates. In terms of the covered call yield type of thing, you can set a trigger on calls where the price is greater than spot times 0.005 or something like that. I'd have to play around with it to see if you could do it on an annualized yield basis rather than just a simple yield. But it definitely could be done, and it's kind of interesting because we're all about flow, not necessarily kind of running a screen where you say, okay, show me any calls that are bid more than 2% yield to call away kind of thing. So we've played around with some ideas on basically using Trade Alert to find trades to do rather than just digging through trades that other people are doing to see what they're up to. The answer is you could do it on activity, and I'd have to play around with. You could use our API to find contracts that kind of met criteria. So I guess the answer is yes, and give us a call, and I'll show you how.
There you go. Hit them up at tradealert.com. As we keep rolling into our final segment, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode on Monday. I should point out, as we've been running the show here, the markets seem to have swung a little bit. S&P back in the green, up about 0.15%. The NASDAQ up about 0.6%. The Dow still off about 0.1%, but it seems like maybe some green starting to creep back into the day. After all, Mr. Rock Lobster, I know that is unwelcome news for you, perma bear as you are. So if you have any thoughts, first off, on our questions of the week and the results, have at it. And then B, what are you keeping an eye on until our next episode on Monday, sir?
Yeah, I think the question of the week, I totally get it. I think in a bull market, though, I think the buy ride is terrible as a trade. I prefer diagonal call spread against the stock. So you sell short term, buy the back for credit. And if your stock gets taken out, you still have a call to rip. Or you do 1x2 call spread, so you get double the bang back up. So you have to remember, bull market, you're really not looking for yield. I think you're trying to capture the capital gains. So you got to make sure you're still in it for those. So anyway, I look at those two trades to try to, to give your stock a little extra juice, so to speak. As far as today, I think we might see the 12 handle by the end of the day. Overall, like Microsoft's coming back. Nvidia's up a little bit. Walmart's up like $1.70. I'm just saying Tesla's up a little bit. Would not surprise me if Tesla was $300 by the end of the summer. So I'm just saying this AI thing, it will come and go in fits and starts. But, a 12 VIX, we get to the 12 handle. That's what it is. So anyway, that's what I see. What's going on. So as much as I can be the skeptical, grumpy old man. If the market's going up, don't waste all your money trying to short it. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, by the way, really quickly,
it could be a nasty, nasty, nasty summer for you.
Did you have something to add for the question from NNBT, sir?
LiveVol does have some scans, and I know that's not Henry's product specifically, although his title is quite lofty and grand over there at the CBOE. I've noticed. I was reading it on the thing. I think that would be cool. I mean, Trade Alert has a ton of features. But I think LiveVol does have an option strategy scanning tool that does create things like that if you were so interested. So I know that is not exactly Trade Alert, but I think LiveVol is grabbing a lot of cool Trade Alert features and sticking it in there. So somebody might want to give that a look if the Trade Alert can't totally fit the bill. Even though I think it's a great product.
There you go. Good suggestion there. And of course, LiveVol still under the CBOE umbrella, so it's all one big suite at the end of the day. Mr. Flowmaster, what are you keeping an eye on until your next appearance next week? And what are your thoughts on the Rock Lobster's suggestion that they try out some of the scanning in LiveVol?
I absolutely agree, and my job is supposed to be to know all of our platforms. So thank you for the reminder. LiveVol is definitely has more functionality when it comes to screening, and so it's pretty nifty. I think we're just going to be looking at kind of the usual. No earnings. I think we're going to be in a sideways range, so I'm going to be looking for kind of some of these pockets of directional flow to try to jump into and get out of with some gains, and just keep on doing what we do, innovating and doing everything we possibly can with data.
All right, and the last word goes to the Uncleist of Mikes. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what are you keeping an eye on here for the week? And then if folks want to check out Uncle Mike goodness, where should they go? What should they do?
Well, keep an eye on the S&P, just seeing if we recover from this little pullback that we've had, to see if we're still in a bull market, or to see if this was the top. Who knows? But continuing to follow that really closely. I think we're at kind of a key point with that because we're not at the high of the recent rally. We're not making new highs again every day. I think we just need to keep an eye on where that's going, what that's doing. And if you want to find some Uncle Mike goodness, feel free to follow me on Twitter, Mike at Mike TOSAW, TOSAW. Check out my website, stcharleswealth.com. If you're looking for a financial advisor who actually considers options.
There you go. He's a very considerate fellow at Mike TOSAW on the old Twitter. Mr. Rock Lobster, really quickly, where should folks go if they want to learn more about all of your good goodies?
All of the good goodies, 888-TRADE-01. Say if you see the show, get 10% off. Ask our customer care team, and they will help you. Or go to Money Map Press and check out weekly profit cycles. If you want to learn how to trade VIX and SPY and create non-correlated market returns. And it is growing in popularity over there, I'm going to say, on a weekly basis. So if you like this show and you like this type of analysis, check it out. Check it out.
There you go. Check it out. And, of course, stay tuned for the Rock Lobster on the pro side tomorrow. Options oddities coming up after volatility views. And, of course, you know where to go. We said it all show long. TradeAlert.com is the place to go to check out all the good goodies that the FlowMaster and the rest of the crew have going. And we mentioned there's a lot of other platforms there as well, including LiveWall. So maybe you want to start your search at CBOE.com and then narrow down depending on the platform that fits your needs out there. But a good place to start, CBOE.com is the place to go. We got to get on out of here. Back again, like I said, in a little bit with TWIFO. The folks from Footsie Russell will be joining me in the CME Group hot seat. So a lot to unpack. If you like yourself a little bit of a deep dive into all things recon and Footsie Russell, that's going to be the show for you. How often do we talk about Tesla and Microsoft and Apple on TWIFO? Spoiler alert, not often. Going to do it today, though, so stay tuned for that. If you're listening on demand, that'll be coming up after this show, so just hit next. Of course, all you pro folks, hang out in the live chat. We'll be back in a little bit for all of that TWIFO goodness. Then back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for volatility views. And then again, we take it home with the Rock Lobster on options oddities. Then back again on Monday, another episode of the old OB. Stay safe out there, everybody.
The Option Block is brought to you by CBOE. When it comes to trading volatility, trust CBOE, the creator of the VIX Index, for in-depth and relevant information. CBOE's tools and services gives you up-to-date trade insights, analysis, and positions of VIX options and futures. No matter what kind of trader you are, there's plenty of useful information to take the guesswork out of creating your portfolio strategy and to help you make more educated moves in the market. Visit www.cboe.com/VIX today to learn more. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.